Good evening, my name is Kelsey Wilhelm. Welcome to TDM Talk Show. Our guest tonight has not only witnessed the boom of Macau's tourism industry, but has been a key part of it. Dr. Maria Helena de Senna Fernandes is the director of the Macau Government Tourism Office and has been since 2012. Her experience with the office stretches back 20 years, and she's here to tell us not only how it's progressed so far, but where it's going next. Thank you again for joining us.
Pleasure.
I know that we recently had the honor of being granted the Unesco Creative City of Gastronomy Award.
Right.
How exactly did that come about?
Well, the original idea was started with one of the sessions of meetings that we had regarding the Tourism Development Committee. I believe that was it was about 3 years ago. One of the members of the committee actually raised the possibility for Macau to consider candidating ourselves, to join what we call the UNESCO Creative Cities Network in the area of gastronomy. In actual fact, the network has has 7 different disciplines, and in order to candidate to one of what we call the creative disciplines, we can actually choose from one of from the 7 fields, but I guess for Macau, we felt that the gastronomy field should be the one that is most relevant to our current tourism development and also to our historic development as well. So that's why we decided to use gastronomy. And obviously it's not a process that you can just finish in one day or in about 2 or 3 weeks. So it took us about 2.5 years altogether to put together all the ideas of what we need to write into the candidate document, and finally we got designated last year.
All right. Did anyone from UNESCO actually have to come and try the food to say we're authentic?
Well, the idea is really creativity. The idea of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network is to for the city to use creativity as I would say the driving force for sustainability, and in that sense they are as I said, there are the 7 fields that we can choose from. We're talking about crafts and arts and crafts. We're talking about media arts. We're talking about literature, music, or gastronomy, of course, another one. Media arts, as well as things like film. So all these 7 disciplines. We looked at the 7 disciplines, and finally we came to the conclusion that yes, Macau, in terms of gastronomy, it's more related to our historic development. It's also more related to people's day in and day out living. It's also more relevant to tourism, so to speak, in terms of our own characteristics. So that's why we decided that we should go for the tourism field. Well, UNESCO didn't send anybody to come here to try out the food, because it's not only about how good is the food, it's also about how does gastronomy or what does gastronomy have to do with our our history. What are the things that we have done, over the years in terms of promoting gastronomy, in terms of the people who work in the field, or how does gastronomy contribute to the economy's development, and how does gastronomy help Macau to progress into the future. So I guess it's not just about eating what's good to eat in Macau. So there's a lot of things involved, and besides just having good food. So I guess for us nowadays, it's really trying to also let people know that being a city of gastronomy doesn't only mean to say that you have good food. You also have to have a relevance of between gastronomy and where you want to progress the city into. So that's but still although it's not mandatory for them to send people to try out our food, what we did in the midst of the entire process of gathering information and also trying to understand more about the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network is we actually invited, at that point in time there were 18 creative cities of gastronomy worldwide. So we invited all 18 of them to come here to Macau to have a look at the city. The rationale behind that is we want them to understand more about the city. So when they look at the city in terms of our candidature, they would have a better idea as to what Macau stands for, what we can offer in terms of gastronomy, and how gastronomy helps to contribute to a better living in Macau.
Well, I hope we made some of them jealous.
Well, Well, the general consensus that most of the cities came to is that Macau really has a very good infrastructure, not just gastronomy-wise, but the entire city. In terms of the hotel infrastructure, in terms of the tourism infrastructure, and also in terms of the way of living of the people. So we brought them in November, so that they can, besides understanding of what kinds of food we can offer, they're also able to join into the food festival. They're also all possible for them to go into the different parts of the city to look at our our history, as well as all the old buildings that we have, the historic center of Macau. So I guess a lot of them actually felt that there is a lot to offer for Macau. And so I guess at the end of the day, when it came to the time that they have to cast their votes, or they have to give their opinions as to whether Macau should be accepted into the Creative Cities Network, I guess we fared pretty well.
That's good. There's quite a bit of variety, let's say, in terms of not only the history of Macau's cuisine, but the levels at which you will find it.
True.
You will find something in a back alley. You will find something in a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant.
Yeah.
And depending on the taste buds of the person, each one of them can be exactly the same caliber, the same quality,
Yes.
and of the same relevance to Macau's necessity and value as a tourism destination.
Right.
But does that still put us, the current placement put us towards the top of the same ranking? Are we up there with some of the other foodie great cities?
I guess, if you look at Macau and if you look at our development, Macau has, it's very difficult to make a direct comparison with, different cities around the world, because I guess the food that each and every place offers, or some of the gastronomy cities are not especially special in terms of the food that or they might not all offer Michelin 3-star cuisine, but as we see along all these different creative cities of gastronomy, each has their own characteristics. Some are good in terms of some are gastronomy cities because of their special kind of food that that they have become known worldwide. Say, for example, Parma for the ham. And there are other cities who are known because they're able to provide artisan kinds of foodstuffs. Like Sweden, they still keep a lot of their old traditions. Then there are other places who who would be promulgating their local food producers. So they're important in terms of being food producers. Raw materials producers. So they're when we look at the creative cities of gastronomy, they're not. We can't just say that, okay, yes, you can get good food there. Good food in their different forms, in their more primitive forms, or in their, or in the ways that they prepare food, or in their traditions, or in, or in the case of Macau, we have, a mixture of cultures, being offered, as part of our food culture. So I guess, each and every creative city of gastronomy is faring differently, and also what they offer is slightly different from each other.
It seems like, Macau actually does fill quite a few of those boxes in terms of its trade history, in terms of the mixture of its cultures, in terms of local cuisine. We have our own almond cookies that have become a popular favorite. I'm sure that's quite well. Some of the significant events that we've noticed, bringing very important high caliber chefs to town, showing them what Macau is like, if they don't already know it. Holding competitions or events such as Asia's 50 Best Restaurants, it definitely highlights Macau on an international stage for its gastronomy. Is that something that we're going to see more of going forward?
I think yes, and also not only, because obviously the idea of bringing Asia's 50 Best actually went very well with the designation of UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. But the process of bringing the event to Macau actually was a negotiation for almost 2 years, I believe. So we had that idea of bringing Asia's 50 Best even before. Even before we got the designation. So I guess just very good timing, and also just everything coming into place at the same time. So it's so we're very happy about that, and then and that's why this year we designated the year as the year of gastronomy, because we want to focus people's attention on one, that Macau has become a creative city of gastronomy, and secondly, also bringing more focus in and more exposure to to Macau's different food offerings. So doing a gastronomy year, you can't just only fare on one particular event. So there are many different events, either offered by the government or offered by the private sector as well. So I bet we'll see a lot more of gastronomy events being hosted either by the private sector, or maybe the government will also come into play.
And it seems like, yeah, there are synergies that go, especially with some of the larger integrated resorts.
Yes.
Something like the Top Chef. The finale of the Top Chef, which came to Macau. I understand it was very difficult to keep that under wraps, but they did a very good job of it. Is it hard when pitching, let's say, whether the private sector or the government itself pitching something like that? Do people already know Macau? Do they expect that it's a place that they will be having the finale of such an event?
Well, I guess Macau's profile international profile has actually risen over the years. I can remember saying back to the times when I first joined the tourism office, when you go out for promotions, most of the people wouldn't know Macau, or wouldn't know exactly where it is all about. You have to tell everybody that, oh, well, we're just next door to Hong Kong. But nowadays, internationally, even when we go to travel shows, even if we go to other places, most people would tend to know about Macau, even if they don't know entirely what Macau stands for, but they would have heard about the place. They would have known that yes, we have big integrated resorts, we have entertainment facilities, we have heritage and culture, so they would know different aspects of Macau, even if they don't know the exactly what Macau has to offer as a whole. But so we would see that nowadays going out to pitch for events, or especially for conferences, for exhibitions, for different kinds of events, the task becomes easier. I wouldn't say it's completely easy. We're facing a lot of competition nowadays. There are many destinations who are looking for events, who are looking for, and they're offering a lot. Sometimes even offering a lot more than what we want to offer. So there's always a negotiation process going through. But I guess that when people bring events to Macau, they're pretty happy that one, the hosting is good, and secondly, we are able to deliver what we promise.
And that is something that is going to be interesting going forward, because we've had such quick growth so far, and we've seen such big projects happening and bringing more and more tourists to Macau. I think we had something like over 32 million tourists last year. Right. We're expecting even more this year.
Well, growing at our projection is probably around between 3 to 5%. But looking on the last couple of months, seems like it's more likely to be 5%.
Okay. So even more people coming in, more people to enjoy the food. That means that we're also going to have to train up this next generation that is going to be filling these positions, and even more so, having the local talent be participating in more and more in this industry, which it already has been. Yeah. But does that mean that there has to be more collaboration, say, or instigated collaboration between some of these major operators and groups like the Institute for Tourism Studies or any of the culinary teaching schools?
Well, I think not only, we can't just, when we look at Macau as a whole, and when we look at, the development of the cuisine in Macau, or, gastronomy as a whole in Macau, it's not just the big resorts that are doing that. Of course, in the last couple, in the last 10, 15 years, they are a major force to be reckoned with as well. But at the same time, we cannot forget, a lot of the small eateries around town. These are also contributing to the entire, restaurant as well as the eating scene in Macau. So, we need to also keep those, in active. Very, very actively participating in our activities as well. So I guess what we're looking at in the future would be a collaboration between the government, academia, particularly, not only the Institute for Tourism Studies, but we also have other entities like, say, for example, the University of Science and Technology. They're also offering culinary, courses as well. And besides that, of course, the private sector in terms of restaurants, in terms of, the big hotels, and in terms of probably other people who write about food, or even those that are in the area of the media and all that. So we need everybody to come into play. So that is a very important kind of participation, and we're looking at why are we also doing a lot of awareness about Macau being a creative city of gastronomy, and what UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy stands for is because we want to get everybody understand that we need to collectively try to keep the designation, because every 4 years we need to give a report to the UNESCO, and we don't want to fare badly compared to the other cities that have been designated. So it's an ongoing process. It is something that we need to keep alive, and we need to do it as a collective force.
And it's something that from my personal point of view was born from the original mixture, the original cuisine of Macau, and the eateries and the street areas that you'd mentioned just now. There are more of them appearing. There are more restaurants appearing, and that's actually difficult within the rent environment. But do you see that there are a lot of restaurants that are also calling themselves local Macanese cuisine, or they're calling themselves Portuguese cuisine, and depending on who you talk to, that may or may not be as accurate as they would hope it could be.
Right.
Do you think that there might, over the course of, not because of this designation, but over the course of the growth of the restaurant and F&B industry in Macau, be a dilution effect of what Macanese cuisine means or what it is?
Well, during the when we were collecting information for to put together the candidate document for Creative City of Gastronomy, we actually collected quite a lot of different opinions as well, as we went along. Because when we put together the document, there were a lot of requirements that we didn't expect before. Initially we were thinking about, okay, maybe we need to collect information about food events, what training we've been doing, what sort of, how special is the food of Macau. But then we also ran into the necessity to collect information on, how does gastronomy contribute to helping out the what they call the more underprivileged people of the society, and how does actually gastronomy contribute to the development of the city, and going into the future, what are other programs that the government or even the private sector have. It's not enough just to have government initiatives. It's also necessary to have local initiatives as well as academia, research, and all that. So as we went along, we collected a lot of information which we originally didn't understand about the food culture of Macau. So with that, and looking at the programs that or the projects that the other creative cities of gastronomy actually propose to UNESCO, we're actually taking I would say some reference from them and trying to also implement some similar strategies or similar programs in Macau. One of them being, taking a leaf from Chengdu in Sichuan. They actually, after being designated as a city of gastronomy, what they did was they collected a lot of information, and through research and all, and a lot of course, discussions, they came to a set of we can say characteristics or even standards for what can be called Sichuan cuisine.
Okay.
So we're taking some reference from that, and we've started now a research, starting from a research or putting together a database, together with the Cultural Bureau, ourselves, the IFT, as well as the Macanese Culinary Association. What we're looking at now is first step, collecting a lot of information about Macanese cuisine, particularly recipes that might get lost if we don't document them, because a lot of the recipes are being taught from mother to daughter, but not exactly being written down in a very systematic way. So we might need to find some way to put them together, and then eventually what we're looking at is after we've created a good database on Macanese cuisine, probably come together with some characteristics or some. I'm not sure whether I can call them standards at this point in time, but probably some characteristics which need to be met before they can be called Macanese cuisine.
Okay.
So because there are a lot of opinions of, as you said, possible dilution of, what exactly is Macanese cuisine, and then we might lose our identity. So this is a way in terms of, really learning from others as to how we can protect our own, authenticity, and also help it to be, more recognized in the future.
I'm glad to hear. That's definitely, it gives me more faith that we will preserve the authenticity of what we have. Now that you've made me hungry, you have to tell me, what is your favorite Macanese dish?
Oh, I always tell people that my favorite Macanese dish is minchi.
Good choice.
Not a difficult dish to to make if you don't know if you don't actually have some or you don't actually request for some specialty, but it's a food that that takes to your heart. It's a food that you've been eating day in and day out since you were small, and it's kind of it's stuck in your memory. So although there are a lot of good Macanese dishes, but I think that this is something that it's something that you feel very close to home.
Well, we need to bring more people in. We already have a lot of people coming in, but we need to bring more people in to try this cuisine. And we have a lot of interesting things that are happening, particularly with infrastructure, that are going to be linking up Macau to a lot more destinations, and which could change, potentially, the tourism mixture of who is coming to Macau.
True.
One of those main projects is the Hong Kong Joy Macau Bridge, which is still set to open this year.
Right. Still anxiously waiting.
Yes, yes. And that will be a main thing. The main through line that I hear through most of the people that I speak with is that it will link us up to the airport. Does that change? Yeah, in Hong Kong.
Right.
Does that in any way change how Macau needs to pitch itself or needs to orient itself, in particular in regards to your office?
I think the major change or the game changer that it will play is the perception of easier access to Macau. So far, obviously, there have been, over the years, there have been additional services, particularly in terms of ferries directly from the Hong Kong airport. But still, people, in a lot of people's perception, it is still not that easy, because you still need to change to a different mode of transport. Meaning to say you have to change from a plane, you land in Hong Kong, and then you have to board a boat, still to come to Macau, and then and then probably the services from the airport, because of the works that are happening around the airport in Hong Kong, is leading to a little bit of difficulty sometimes in terms of adding more services. And then if you need to go to central Hong Kong, then there is an additional transportation of by car, by land transport, and then you still need to board a boat to come to Macau. So the perception that or the idea that you would give to people, particularly from the medium to long haul, is it's not easy to come to Macau. So, with the bridge, then what the perception will be that you fly into, the airport in Hong Kong, and then you board a car or a bus or a whatever land transport, that is available, and then you travel across a bridge and you arrive in Macau. People are very used to, particularly, long-haul passengers, they're very used to flying into airports and then take probably half an hour to get into the city. So this perception would be, your normal, or, well, I would say normal, kind of perception of, an arrival into a place, So this would definitely, alleviate a lot of the concerns that people might have in terms of, oh, what if I don't catch a boat, or what if the plane delays, and then I am in trouble, that kind of idea. So I guess in terms of perception, particularly for medium to long haul, we need to promote more on that and let people understand the ease of travel, to directly to Macau, from the airport in Hong Kong. So that would definitely provide us an additional opportunity of tapping into people from a longer or a wider base.
And that's still meant to happen this year. Do you think that we're going to top the 40 million mark this year with the 5% growth that you mentioned?
No, definitely not. Our projection is probably, as I said, about 5%. Definitely won't bring us to 40 million, and I don't think that in the long run it's really not our objective to get a lot more passengers or a lot more visitors to Macau in terms of volume. what we're looking at is really, trying to get people to stay longer,
Yes.
engage in activities which are higher yield. Say for example, we're talking about conferences, exhibitions, where people would spend more money in Macau or stay longer, and then the kind of experience that they have about Macau would be very different from those who are coming just for the day. So this would also create, hopefully, a very, very positive cycle of people's perception about Macau.
And it's already happening. We see that the MICE numbers and the spend per average MICE visitor is much higher.
And even from last year's numbers, if we look at those who are overnighting in Macau, for the last 10 years, it's the first time that we see that we have about almost close to 53% of people staying overnight in Macau. So this is a very, very big change compared to years before.
Yes, and it's a positive change.
Yep.
There's aside from bringing in people through the bridge, we also have the airport, which is continuing its expansion. It's intending to bring in, I think, 8 million passengers this year.
Yes, I think so.
And we have this whole Greater Bay Area concept, which is also simultaneously, it could be seen as a threat to Macau in terms of the tourism numbers if we look at some of the different offerings that they have around in the region. How do we have to contend with that? Do we need to fight for our tourism numbers with the other Greater Bay Area cities?
No, I think the Greater Bay Area actually offers a good opportunity for Macau to, I would say, expand the type of visitors that come to Macau. Meaning to say that it's with the Greater Bay Area, definitely we are looking at people who would like to spend more time rather than just come for a day, because for them to explore the Greater Bay Area, you need a longer period of time, and then probably you won't be able to explore all 11 cities within the Greater Bay in one go.
That's a lot of vacation time.
Yeah, so it would also give us opportunity to tap into repeat traveling into the Greater Bay Area. I'm sure that this is a very, very good collaboration project, or really a very good collaboration in terms of the entire area, because we would be able to, for those things that we can't do in Macau, we can also always find alternatives around the Greater Bay Area. And definitely there will be a lot of synergies that we can draw from them. So, in the long run, definitely, all of us will stand to benefit.
Are the governments of each region working together to try and coordinate? Is there a coordinated plan that's being implemented?
Well, in different levels, of course. In terms of tourism, we already created within the 9 cities in Guangdong, in the Guangdong province, and as well as Hong Kong and Macau, what we call a working group together, to promote tourism. And then now, of course, we need to come together as to how we're going to brand the Greater Bay Area outside, to let people know how are we going to promote ourselves outside of, the area. So it's a lot of groundwork still being done at this point in time. And also, how are we going to, and what are the target markets to start with? So the presidency is being assumed by Guangzhou this year. So there will be a rotating presidency as well. So we're looking forward to working together with them.
How soon will the presidency come to Macau?
We're not sure, because it's rotating, but we don't have a sequence at this point in time. So whoever's happy to take up the next presidency, for next year, can always candidate themselves. So we're looking at as Macau, we're always very. I would say we always want to contribute, but I don't think we need to always take the lead. I guess it's always good to have different cities, taking the lead, so that there are different kinds of projects, being put up, and not always coming back to the same things.
And just one kind of, in terms of Macau itself, we've been given this territorial water that we can work with.
Yes.
And we want to be expanding maritime tourism.
Yes.
Can we expect to see more boats plying Macau's water, offering these opportunities towards visitors soon?
We are actually working with a private sector operator, trying to put together what I'm not exactly sure what's the name that they'll be using, but I believe they will be announcing that pretty soon. But it will be a water-based product, short, not exactly a cruise, a long-term cruise project, but it's a short boat tour from Macau side to Taipa and then to Koloan as well. So we're looking at, probably in the initial stages, not in the long run, we hope to use Ama Temple as the as the place where people would embark and disembark, on the Macau side, because it relates to our history. It's the Ama Temple where the Portuguese first came to Macau, and also that's really the old fishing area of Macau. So we would like to see that. But probably in the initial stages, we're still looking at some works, some construction works needing so that it can actually come into fruition. So they might need to use other docking facilities to start with. But on the Taipa side, it would be at the Taipa ferry terminal, and on the Koloan side, definitely on the Koloan pier. So it's already a product which over the last couple of years we've been in and out talking with various government departments as well as the operator who will be putting together the actual operations. So we are looking at possibly within this year still a trial product being launched very soon. And then we'll take it on from there within this year. We understand that they are almost ready, to launch a trial. So we're now just waiting for the final details.
Great. Well, I understand that Macau is very beautiful from the water as well as from the land, and as well as for anyone flying into the Hong Kong airport and taking the bridge across. I'm sure they'll greatly enjoy it. Yet again, thank you very much for your time, Doctor.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure that we're going to see much more expansion of Macau in terms of tourism, in terms of products, in terms of non-gaming, and even more opportunities for visitors to come and see. So we welcome you to Macau, and we'll see you next week.